Welcome to Mostly Disturbing Fables. Each week we bring you a new disturbing fable from the archive. Before we get to creeps, I must warn you, our fables are indeed disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Come here. Don't be shy. Mostly disturbing.
This episode was inspired by a true story from my dear friend M and her son N, deep in the Sierra Nevada woods. Enjoy. Something Keeps Returning My Lost Stuff by Zebulon Patchen. I'll set the scene. I was in my kitchen, minding my own business. The smell of pot stickers cooking filled our humble home. My son Nick sat on the couch, watching his favorite kids' horror show. I had spaced out when from the corner of my window, just beyond a few large ponderosa pines in the yard, movement caught my eye. The movement was a yellow soccer ball, inexplicably rolling across the dusty mountain soil. Shocking, right? Well, it was to us. More on that later. My son and I, spooked out of our minds, and chills running down our spines, ran outside. Here's the weird part. No one was out there. The other weird part takes us back about 2 weeks before the mysteriously rolling ball. Summer was coming. We wanted to enjoy some outside time before it got insanely hot. So we walked up our property to the flat spot which overlooked a steep, and I mean steep, drop. At the bottom of the drop, about 80 feet down, is a ravine filled with thickets of plants and young trees. Something else you should know. Our property is deep in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, completely isolated from civilization. Only one neighbor for miles. It's pretty great. Well, until it's not. Anyway, after some deliberation, and being a whimsical mom, I thought it'd be super fun to kick a soccer ball off the cliff into a ravine. I kicked that sucker as hard as I could. It flew through the air and landed with a satisfactory thud at the bottom. We hiked down a small goat trail to find the soccer ball, and before too long found ourselves deep in the thicket, searching high and low. But no matter how hard we looked, we never found that ball. That brings us to now. The ball somehow disappeared into a gully, lost to the ages, and then 2 weeks later appears in front of us. Our morning started out like any other. Chicken duty. Our chicken coop resides on the north end of the property, and upsettingly, so is our mystery ravine. It's still dark in the morning when we head over to the coop to collect eggs and give our hens feed. Nick ran his usual route, around an old stump that we planted some mint in, and to the back of our coop to collect the eggs. I headed to the large burlap bag of feed we kept in a metal trash can to keep the critters out. Nick walked into the coop with about 6 fresh eggs and watched me feed the chickens. The early morning quiet was broken by a strange noise. A sort of deep, whooping noise. The sound echoed off the mighty pines and shook our bones. Our coop has a small metal wire-covered window that looks down into the gully. The morning light was just starting to filter through the pine trees, just enough to see the silhouette of the noisemaker. Nick saw it first, and he froze. The eggs he usually clutched tightly in his hand fell cracking on the coop floor. Something unknown and horrible stood facing us. It stood on 2 legs like a man, only much bigger. Its fuzzy outline confirmed that it was covered head to toe in thick fur. "Mom! Mom!" Nick screamed in terror. "Run!" I yelled back. We both ran for home, hearts racing. The creature didn't follow us. It just stared. The next few hours we looked out of every window on guard duty, but the visitor never came back. Nick was sure it was a Bigfoot, or maybe a few big feet. The bright sunlight of late morning gave us the bravery to investigate. Armed with a stick, a pair of old binoculars, and a trash can lid that Nick deemed his shield, we marched to the spot where the monster had stood. "Look for footprints. We need proof," Nick said, slashing at the scrubby brush along the goat trail. I spotted something up ahead, right where the Bigfoot stood. The sight gave me full body shivers. In a pile, yolks and all, lay the eggs that had been dropped by Nick. Mom? Nick pointed next to the pile of eggs at a large imprint in the dirt. It looked much like a human footprint, but roughly 4 times bigger. We spent a good few hours looking for more prints, but they seemed to end abruptly after a few steps, as if the creature just disappeared. Few nights passed without so much as a stick cracking around the house. The calm nights eased our minds, and soon we stopped searching for Bigfoot. I was at the kitchen counter, looking out the same window. It was nearly dark, just a faint light filtered in from above the pine fronds. The air started to ripple, sort of like the waves of heat reflecting off of a hot section of highway. Only difference, these waves swirled into each other like a whirlpool. I watched, frozen in confusion, until, without warning, the circle of spinning air froze solid. It looked like a circular mirror, suspended by invisible ropes just floating. The image reflected in the mirror reflected our yard, with one addition. A large ape man was walking toward me through the mirror. His giant furry feet reached out of the mirror, creating ripples in the glassy surface. Out stepped the beast. He looked in our direction. "Get down and be quiet," I whisper-yelled to Nick. He must have witnessed the creature. He hit the ground before my words reached his ears. We waited, listening for any signs of movement. Nothing but the gentle mountain breeze, and a few chickadees chirping could be heard. I lifted my head, peeked out of the window. The Bigfoot was gone. The floating mirror had disappeared. We cautiously left the safety of our home and walked over to where the ape had appeared. The only sign of anything out of place was yet another huge footprint, and my spare truck keys hanging on a branch. "Mom, didn't you lose those keys?" Nick asked, scrunching his face. I had lost the keys a couple of weeks ago. I dropped them on the goat trail and couldn't find them. I told Nick under no circumstances was he to go into the woods without me, at least until we figured out what was going on. I called the sheriff's department, the state police, and California Fish and Game. Of course, they all thought I was some kind of crazy lady, or that this was some kind of joke. I stayed up late, diving deep into strange forums online about Bigfoot portals and anything else that might help. After an exhausting few hours of research, I passed out at the computer, my head resting on the desk. I'm not sure what woke me up. The neck pain from my awkward sleeping position, or instinct. The usual blanketed lump of Nick was gone, his blanket on the floor in a pile. My heart stopped. My gut told me something was deeply wrong. I rushed outside. It was raining hard. Muddy footprints led into the woods. I followed the tracks while screaming out for my son. My voice echoed off the walls of the gully. His footprints led to a clearing, and directly up to another floating mirror. The mirror's reflection showed the clearing. Like a painting, the clearing was sunny and free of any storm. I knew what to do. I charged at the mirror and leapt through into the strange mirror world. The sensation was like the drop of a roller coaster, minus the whooshing air. The warmth of the sunlight hit my skin as I reoriented myself. "Hi, Mom!" Nick sounded happy. I spotted him nestled into a large pile of old tube socks and various toys. A Bigfoot knelt down beside him, making soft grunting and cooing noises. "Nick, come here now." My voice warbled with panic. "It's okay. They're my friends." Nick patted the beast, which let out a soft giggle. "See? They found all the missing left socks." Nick scooped up a handful of stinky old tube socks and lifted them into the air. "It's what they do. They find lost stuff." The big feet still visit once in a while, returning random bits and bobs once thought of as lost. In return, once a month Nick and I leave out their favorite snack, pot stickers with soy sauce. Another disturbing fable for the archive. Thank you for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed this week's fable, please subscribe and leave us a review. Ghoul kibble is a specialty item and very hard to source, so anything helps. Until next week, bye-bye.